Nietzsche, Sartre, Kierkegaard, Kant, Hobbes, Isaac Newton, and Leonardo da Vinci. All of these great minds never got married, and in Nietzsche's book on the Genealogy of Morality, he gives his reason as to why he believed that this wasn't a coincidence, and that it was an active choice by each of these great thinkers to not get married, as Nietzsche attempts to put forth the best argument for why talented thinkers should never, ever get married. And look, I have to say this before we continue on, that I don't agree with all of his points here, of course, and I will also cover an article that acts as a counter-argument to Nietzsche and suggests why he may have been misguided in his opinion. However, Nietzsche's argument is an interesting one, and there is a lot of food for thought within it. As today we'll go over why Nietzsche believed it is the duty of a great thinker to refrain from marriage, Nietzsche's rules on what makes a successful marriage, and we'll also go over perhaps the real reason that philosophers didn't marry. 1. Why great thinkers must avoid marriage. In On the Genealogy of Morality, Nietzsche says the following in regards to marriage. Poverty, humility, chastity. Look at the lives of all great, fruitful, inventive spirits close up. One will always find all three to a certain degree. Certainly not, as goes without saying, as if these were their virtues, but rather because their supreme lord philosophy demands it thus of them, demands it prudently and relentlessly. He has a mind for only philosophy, and gathers everything, time, energy, love, interest only for this, and saves it only for this. And what Nietzsche is saying here is that the endless search for the ultimate truth is an adventure so demanding that it is an utter waste of time unless you are willing to literally give everything you have for it. Much like how Leonardo da Vinci gave his entire life to the search for truth in his art, Nietzsche believes a typical academic philosopher must do the same. He believed that it is a duty to the human race that a select biologically chosen few who have the right brain capacity dedicate everything they have to this search for truth, because that in turn allows the common man to live a good life, a life of balance, or even a life solely dedicated to their family and community. See, Nietzsche didn't view it as that a philosopher is too good for marriage, but rather that they just have a different duty to society. However, having a duty to your family and spouse is equally important, just different to the role of the philosopher or scientist or true artist in his opinion. And in what perhaps may be one of his most controversial opinions, he suggests that if a philosopher were to marry, it would have to be in a way that services his work, more so like an experiment as opposed to really following your romantic instincts. Similar to how Socrates married the most annoying woman he could possibly find in order to carry out an experiment of sorts that would help his work. But to expand on his point further here, Nietzsche seemed to also view this duty as a way to weed out the bad philosophers. Because if every philosopher felt forced to give everything they have to philosophy, then the bad ones who lack the true curiosity and hunger of a philosopher would eventually tire out and give up in hopes of leading a more balanced lifestyle. Similar to how the Navy SEALs have Hell Week, which is a way of weeding out anyone who just doesn't have the right mental equipment for the job, it also tells them that they're just not cut out for it, and that they never really wanted it in the first place, and that now they can go home and give their all to their spouse and family without ever contemplating the idea of being a philosopher again, thus protecting the sanctity and importance of philosophy and not oversaturating the market with crap, if you will. 2. Nietzsche's rules for a good marriage. Now, it's easy to interpret Nietzsche as someone who didn't believe in traditional marriage at all. However, he did also give quite a lot of thought to love, family, and marriage, and has some advice for those who wish to engage in a healthy, well-working marriage and lead a balanced life. And in typical Nietzsche fashion, he suggests that you throw out the idea you have of marriage and face the harsh fact of life, which is that romance is fleeting, and you will not find find a lasting romance in marriage. Rather, he says that you should place little importance on romance other than seeing it as a lighter to spark a flame which will then lead to marriage and your family. As he suggests that once the flame has been lit, you should throw out the lighter and keep the flame going forever by applying the necessary materials, which Nietzsche suggests is simply friendship. You can think of the fire as the marriage and friendship as the wood that you need to keep applying to it, and you need to keep building on this friendship in order to grow closer and bond more and more in order to keep the marriage working well. As he says that friendship is a way of avoiding any toxic power plays that can naturally occur in a relationship, especially when the foundation is purely based off the false idea of an everlasting romance. Now, once again, I do have to say that I don't necessarily agree with his point here. However, he does make an interesting argument, and it is one of the more interesting thoughts in his book. As he says that if you truly want a marriage to work, you need to only view it from a friendship and duty standpoint, and give up on sexual attraction, because sexual attraction, in his mind, confuses the relationship and weakens it, because you can find yourself being sexually attracted to other people and then contemplating if perhaps you like that other person more. Whereas if you only view it from a friendship level standpoint, you will build a friendship so strong that no other person could ever come into your life one day matching that friendship level straight away, as it can only be built through years and years of building connection. Therefore, no one else could possibly compete, and you can solely focus on your one marriage. And so when we see Nietzsche's rules for a well-working marriage, it's easy to see why he sees it as an impossible task for a philosopher, because simply it takes too much work, and therefore eats into the time that must be given to philosophical work. However, there is an interesting article which offers a counter-argument against Nietzsche's argument, and perhaps reveals the real reason that they don't get married. 3. The truth about why philosophers don't marry. The article suggests that the typical personality of someone who would be interested in the studies and rigors of philosophy is someone who simply makes for an annoying spouse, and after a few short weeks of being romantically engaged with someone like that, the partner will just leave them given how tiresome it would be. And so perhaps it's a situation where many philosophers flip the game on its head and claim some sort of moral victory by saying that I cannot possibly engage in marriage given the nature of my job, when in reality it is actually the other way round, and that no one could possibly engage in a relationship with them given the nature of their personality. As there are still numerous philosophers and great thinkers in history who got married and still had great careers. Take someone like Fyodor Dostoevsky, who is seen as one of the great minds of literature and will be studied for centuries moving forward, yet he was engaged in 2 long-term marriages and had a family of his own, and despite writing some incredible novels, also managed to give time to his spouse and to his children. But what are your thoughts on Nietzsche's opinion on marriage? Let me know down below in the comments. What are your thoughts on Nietzsche's overall book on the genealogy of morals? Let me know down below in the comments as well. And if you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, take care.